NTV.
7:45 a.m. Monday's edition of Morning at NTV does continue. I am Priscilla Regina Neluga, and once again, welcome. You can stream with us on YouTube as well as just go click the link on Facebook to be able to move on with us as you kickstart your first Monday of October 2022. Well, this first Monday of October also is interesting, and it has something that is commemorated on it every single year. Now, back in 1985, the United Nations designated the first Monday of October every single year as World Habitat Day. The idea is to reflect on the state of our towns, the state of our cities, and also the basic right for all to adequate shelter. Now, this day is also intended to remind the world, which is you and me, that we all have the power and the responsibility to shape the future of our cities and our towns. As the world looks ahead to celebrate this day, we want to draw your attention to the growing inequalities and vulnerabilities that have actually been exacerbated by the triple C's. One of them being climate, the other being conflict, and of course the most recent one being COVID-19. Now, here to disseminate this information is Robert Otim, who is the National Director, Habitat for Humanity Uganda, joining us for this conversation. Good morning to you, Robert.
Good morning, Priscilla, and good morning, viewers.
World Habitat Day, what is it about, and why the first Monday of October?
Once again, thank you for this opportunity to engage with you and the viewers. For Habitat for Humanity as a network, this is a very important day, and also globally, the sector looks at this day as a day when we sit back and reflect on the progress that we have attained in terms of Sustainable Development Goal 11. And again, for us as a network, as Habitat for Humanity, across all the countries in the world where we are working, it's a moment when we get together and try to review, to reflect, to relearn, to share, to co-create among our network, to be able to see how are we taking strides to fulfill and address our bold vision of a world where everyone has a decent place to live. And in Uganda today, we start with the World Habitat Day, which we hope that it will crown with a urban month. The entire month of October in the sector, we call it the Urban Month. And for this week, we are commemorating the World Habitat Day in a style. From here, we are going to join the government at the media center to be able to have a dialogue with the journalists, but also to the Minister of Housing is going to share a message to update the country on the progress, on some of the guidelines that the sector is proposing for the housing sector entirely in the country. Interesting also for Habitat for Humanity and government, we are going to crown this Habitat Week with a national symposium that is going to be hosted at the Commonwealth Resort this Friday on the 7th. And we hope that throughout the year, we are going to have engagements that are going to remind us to be able to keep on track to deliver our vision of a world and a Uganda where everyone has a decent place to live. So this is a very important day, and we are going to continue as a country to make sure that we have collective and concerted efforts that are going to galvanize for the space in terms of addressing issues of inequity, ensuring that no one and no place is left behind as far as housing is concerned in the country.
Now, you do have Habitat for Humanity Uganda, having been here on the ground for 40 years. You're making 40 years.
Yes.
And in respect of that, could you give us a status of the challenges that affect shelter as a basic human right across Uganda in reflection of climate, in reflection of conflict and COVID-19 most recently?
Thank you. That's a very important question. And I would start with the conflict. We have recently noticed a lot of our neighboring countries influxing to the country, and also there are plans to see into the future how can we resettle some of these refugees in settlements around the urban areas, we definitely know that this is going to even exacerbate the current situation in terms of the housing. As you're aware right now, in the urban areas, we're struggling with a housing deficit of over 210,000 homes that are needed in the urban settlements. But that aside, you see the mushrooming settlements that we usually call them slums. The informal settlements are mushrooming in this country at a rate that is concerning to the government and to the stakeholders. And this is because of the bulging population. The demographics in Uganda are quite, some people say it's a timing bomb if they are not addressed now. We see the increasing young generation getting into the urban areas across the country. So the informalities in these countries are so high, and they are not matched with the supply in terms of basic services. And so when you move down to some of these communities, the slums, sanitation is quite horrible. Hygiene is an issue, and we're looking at conditions right now when we are faced with COVID-19, we're faced with Ebola. These are services that are necessary in these informal settlements. That aside, of course, we also have I think the government has done quite great in terms of the progress in addressing poverty in this country. And in spite of that, UN, the Human Development Index recently, 2021, showed that yes, there is progress. Uganda right now, if I recall the figures, is at 0.525 in terms of the Human Development Index. But because of the inequalities that are existing, the gender inequalities, you can look at the ownership of assets in this country. The financial inclusion. The financial inclusion aspects. Our equality gap, which is now estimated in this report, is about 25%, is countering our gain in terms of addressing the poverty issues in this country. So we fall back to 1990 when we're at around 0.329. That is so sad for us to witness, because right now we are seeing that the poor are really pushed into deep poverty in this country. I remember one time the Pope Francis mentioned that we promised that when the glass is full, at least something will flow for those that are poor. But unfortunately, the glass seems to be magically growing and nothing flows out today. To the very poor.
We're seeing that a lot, especially in terms of land encroachment, especially, for example, wetlands. That has been one of the biggest conversations recently. While you do have the poor being pushed out of the wetlands, and then in other wetlands, you're seeing a lot of development by the rich. So that alone speaks a lot into either government is choosing to have a blind eye. The other day we did have the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, saying that, I mean, the investors were not informed of the land that they were partaking. Therefore, it's okay. We don't have to inconvenience them, but the locals can be inconvenienced in that regard.
Tenure security is one of the core areas that Habitat for Humanity is considering in our new strategic direction. It is a complex, whole lot of issues in this country. The policies are there, but at the same time, again, for me, I look at the most affected people are those that are in informalities, the very urban poor, those that do not have any influence. You can see that, of course, people who are getting to the the wetlands are those that they have the influence and they are able to speak to themselves. But as Habitat for Humanity, we are focusing on those less privileged. And so I do believe that government has taken a stand. The president has been has made a commitment, a strong commitment to have the wetlands secured.
I know that housing also does come with attraction of service delivery. For example, if there's development that is happening in a certain area, it will attract services such as electricity, national water, businesses, among others, to actually also move by the wind, or the course of the wind for that matter. But then the reverse is also true, that in places where you do have the inequality, the gap in housing, those services are extended further and further away from those people. All they get is a bar of soap, a kilo of sugar, which doesn't add value to them in the long run?
The issues of inequality are more critical than ever to be looked at in this country.
So how are we going to mind the gap?
That is what opportunity, the symposium, we are going to have an opportunity, a platform for Ugandans, for the sector, to reflect deeply on how can we focus. We've talked about the segment. We are leaving out the biggest segment. In Uganda right now, and I think this is global, the same report that I quoted, 10% of the population are owning over 48% of the wealth in this country. In the global, the picture is 1% of the wealthiest people in the world are owning 38% of the resources, the wealth in the world. What does that mean to a country like Uganda? 50% of the low category segment are just owning 2% of this wealth. So the issue of inequities is very critical to be addressed, and without it we will not be able to even attain the sustainable development goals. We will not be able to effectively deliver on the national development plan. So the symposium is going to provide a platform for people to start reflecting, how are we really targeting the lower segment of the population? You know that this sector, the private sector, is doing great, but its segment is basically on those that are middle income and those that can afford. But the majority of the Ugandans that need these services, the basic services, the housing, are left behind because of the financial, the mortgages. They are not affordable. Mortgages are not something that are going to work in our context, especially in the lower segment. It is going to continue to favor the middle income and the high.
All right, so I've had symposium. It looks like it could be the start of the antidote to the things that we're talking about right now. Who are you intending to target for this symposium? Who will be present in terms of stakeholders? What are the details that, where is it going to happen?
We are targeting all Ugandans. We are targeting the private sector is a very critical stakeholder here. We would like to bring to the attention that yes, you have space to actually affect and influence and support the lower segment. We want to target the financial institutions that yes, you can't be able to provide interest rates at a lower to support incremental housing. We are happy with the Centenary Bank. We are happy with the Housing Finance Bank. They have come on board and they are taking this and supporting us to target those, the right target of the population, the segment. We are going to have the academia. We want to co-create innovations. We are going to share and test and unveil some of the prototypes of technologies that are affordable in this country. You'll be surprised that in the city area we can have a house at 35 to 50 million Uganda shillings, which is going to be affordable to the lower segment. We are going to have government to be able to share some of the, dissect the policies in terms of settlements and urbanization in this country. We are also going to have some international audience that are going to support us in sharing some of the lessons from across the country, across the continent, and also beyond outside Africa. And we are going to have the cultural fraternity that we have entered into a memorandum and partnership to support collective local action to address issues around habitability in this country. We celebrate the Buganda Kingdom that has committed to support us, to journey with us to build 25 homes annually in this country. The same to the Toro Kingdom, and we are starting to also appeal other regions, the Teso, the Bunyoro, to join this cause, because together we cannot see government alone addressing this. Neither Habitat for Humanity. It needs all actors to come together to deliver on this important and critical service that is a human right in nature.
And that is the call to action coming in from the National Director, Robert Otim, for Habitat for Humanity Uganda. You can head over to their social media platforms. Just type in Habitat for Humanity Uganda and you'll be able to get more information about the symposium that is upcoming. At the end of the day, it is a basic human right for you to have proper shelter, because your shelter will affect your health, your shelter affects education, it affects all the other basic needs and rights that you must attain and enjoy as you live in this world. So Mind the gap, leave no one or place behind. And that is the theme for this year's celebration as we mark World Habitat Day today, Monday 3rd. Thank you so much. Morning at NTV does continue shortly.
You're watching Morning